Hello, this is Vakar Alisha. I am a doctoral researcher at the Center for Applied Language Study, the University of Jyväskylä, Finland. In addition to that, I am also working as a lecturer at Mehran University of Engineering and Technology, Jamshedpur, Pakistan. As I have started a series of sessions on writing academic articles, and I have looked at individual parts in my previous videos. So in continuity with that session, I would like to talk with you in today's session about writing methods in academic articles. Method is a very important, part of academic articles. I would say that it is a kind of a skeleton where your entire article is based on. So therefore, it's very important to have a strong methodological part in your academic article because it is something that gives a clear impression to the readers how you have actually conducted your entire research inquiry. So in considering that importance in today's session, we would see that what are the different considerations that we can look into while writing academic articles. So basically, there are 7 very important moves in methodological sections that we need to look at, and we need to include them in our academic article. These are 7 considerations, but the way to write them, it can vary from article to article, and even how we are writing them in our dissertation and thesis. Again, that can be that can vary, but these considerations are very important in general. So we can say that be it an article, be it a dissertation, you can always look at these 7 important moves, and with different headings and subheadings. That depends on the institutional suggestions and recommendations for writing thesis, or even we look at different research journals, what they actually what format they follow when it comes to writing methodology section. So basically, the move 1 is introduce the overall methodological approach for investigating your research problem. So the very first thing that as a researcher that we need to look at it is actually what kind of a methodological approach we are going to carry out in our research, whether our research is going to be qualitative, or it is going to be quantitative, or sometimes it happens that it is an amalgamation of both. So what we call as a mixed method design. So definitely the choice of method, well, methodology, whether qualitative or quantitative or mixed method, depends on the nature of a study, depends on the nature of research questions, the research objective that we want to investigate, we want to address. So considering that, we actually go for specific methodologies, and within methodologies, we again have to be very much specific about particular methods. Methodology is a very broader one. For example, it's a qualitative, and then it's a quantitative or a mixed method. But again, within qualitative, within quantitative, we have to be clear about specific methods. For example, if my research inquiry is quantitative, then what kind of method I am going to use? Maybe it is going to be a kind of cross-sectional study, or it is going to be a longitudinal study, or sometime I am going for an action research or an experimental design. But when it comes to action research, it can be it can be like quantitative, and it can be qualitative as well. So likewise, if you are going to carry out a qualitative research study, then again you have to see what kind of method, whether it is a kind of ethnography, it's a kind of case study, it's kind of a document analysis, or a textual analysis. So we have to be very much clear about whatever methodology we are going to use, and whatever method within specific methodology we are going to use, that needs to be clearly elaborated in our methodology section. That's the first consideration, which is very important. Okay, so move 2 is indicate how the approach fits the overall research design. So the next step would be we have to show very clearly whether the methodology that we have chosen, we have selected for our study, it really fits the overall research design, whether it really has the capability to address our research problem. So as I said that methodology has to be selected in accordance with the research problem, in accordance with the nature of your study. So it should not be a kind of a mismatch between the research problem and the methodology that you are going to use. For example, if I am going for any kind of ethnographic study, if I have a problem which is situated in ethnographic studies, then definitely I need to go for the ethnography as a methodology. Likewise, it depends. For example, if you want to improve certain practices in academic context, let's say as a teacher, then definitely you have to go for the action research. So depending on the nature of study, nature of research question and problem, you have to find out the very appropriate methodology and the method or research design for that. The third move is describe the specific methods of data collection you are going to use. So once you have decided on research methodology and research method to be used in a particular study, then it is very important for us to know about the research tools, the data collection tools. Means what kind of instrumentation I am going to use in my study. And for each different kind of methodology or method, we have different kind of tools to be selected. For example, if it is going to be a qualitative study, definitely you have to look at possible available qualitative research tools. For example, that can be an open-ended interviews. It can be even an open-ended questionnaire can be possible, or even it can, maybe we can go for the observation. Observation is a very important tool in our quality research. Likewise, document analysis is again a very important tool in the quality research. But on the other hand, we see that if it is a quantitative research or it's experimental design, then definitely there can be different methods. For example, very common tool is a survey or the questionnaire. And definitely whatever tool you are going to select, you have to be very much clear about it, whether you are going to construct it by yourself. If you are constructing it, then there would always be the questions of the validity and reliability in your questionnaire, and that you need to justify. If it is quantitative study, then definitely it's a survey. Whether you are creating a survey on your own or you are adopting it from your study, and then definitely if you are adopting it, then what kind of modifications are needed in a particular survey. And again, after modification, you have to check the reliability as well. And for qualitative and for quantitative, we have different ways of checking the reliability and the validity of different tools. Again, for example, and if I'm talking about the interviews, then I need to see that for interviews, maybe we have different ways of different kinds of interviews. For example, we have structured, we have unstructured, and we have semi-structured. So structured, they are always structured interviews. They are always taken from different researchers in our field. We just take those questions which were asked by a particular interviewer, particular researcher, okay, and then we try to use that set of research question, the question I mean, asked in the interview in our own context. So in a nutshell, we have to be very much we need to elaborate everything in the interview, the research tools, and we need to justify why we are actually taking one particular tool and why not other. So there should be a kind of justification for that. And then it's a move 4, which says that explain how you intend to analyze your results. So you are clear about your methodology, you are clear about method, you are clear about the research tool, okay, and you have gathered data, and then definitely there comes important question here in methodological section. You have to tell the readers about your analysis, means how you have analyzed your results. For example, and if your study is quantitative and you have gathered data through questionnaire or through surveys, then how did you analyze it? You have to tell the readers and people about your analysis procedures. Maybe you have used a certain software. Let's say for quantitative studies, the very common tool is SPSS software. And even within SPSS, definitely it's not the SPSS which will be doing everything, but we as researchers have to get the results according to our research question and research problem. And definitely we need to know whether we want a kind of a descriptive analysis, or we want to engage in the inferential analysis of the results. And again, that would be decided by your research questions. uh, and then you have to see that maybe in SPSA there are different test that can be applied. If you want to, for example, if you want to see a kind of relation between two variables or more, then you need to be very much clear about different tests to be applied. And again, if it is your, let's say, qualitative research, it's an interview data, it's an observation, then how are you going to analyze it? For example, in interview, let's say it may be a kind of content analysis that you have used. It is a thematic analysis. And again, if it is content or thematic, then you need to be clear what kind of, what different models, you are using. Is there any particular, model that you have used in thematic analysis or content analysis to analyze your qualitative data? Or maybe if you are analyzing a document, then you would go for, let's say, discourse analysis again. Again, in discourse, for example, I would definitely emphasize here that it's a very wider field, and you need to, be clear, which particular discourse approach you are going to use to analyze data. And again, that depends on the kind of research questions. So we have different, varying CDA approaches. In discourse analysis, we have one CDA, and CDA again is not a unitary, and it has, many, approaches. And within that, we have different methodological, basis. So I would say that we need to be very much careful about our research. We, while writing a methodology section, everything needs to be clearly defined, clearly described in the part, so that when you are, let's say, if it is a dissertation, the examiner, the people who read your thesis, or if it is your, let's say, uh, research article and you are going to get it published in a reputed journal, the editor and the reviewers and then the readers later on should have a clear picture of what you have done in research. I mean, how you have collected data. So it should answer every let's say, what, when, how, where, and these kind of questions need to be addressed in your methodology section. And then we have a move 5, which says that provide background and rationale for methodologies that are unfamiliar for your readers. So by this, I mean that we need to have a look into the literature. For example, let's say there may be a methodology that you have used, but you don't have to assume that your readers are already familiar with the methodologies that you are using in your study to come up with certain results, certain conclusions. You always need to write down everything about what you are doing. So therefore, methodology part should be written in a way that you have write down everything about it. What does literature say about a particular methodology? And then how do you situate yourself within that literature to carry out your study? Sometimes it happens that our own studies do play a contributive role in methodological developments. The way we contribute to theories in our research, likewise, we can always contribute to the methodological part. So you need to, situate yourself within a particular methodology. You need to give a rationale for methodology, why you have selected a particular methodology, what is the reason, and why do you think it is suitable to your research. So everything has to be, clearly defined. Likewise, a move 6 is about provide a justification for subject selection and sampling procedure. So let's say if your study is based in a social context where your participants have to be human beings, or your participants have been, maybe the animal subjects are there. So no matter whether it's research is oriented towards animals, let's say in biological sciences, or it is about humans in social sciences, then definitely we need to give a justification for the subject selection. So by subject, I mean that for the participant that you have selected. So there can be a number of things that you have to ask yourself. For example, what can be the sample for my study, be it a qualitative study or be it a quantitative study. We have to be clear about the particular sample size. And definitely sample size varies in different studies. Let's say in quantitative studies, the researchers demand more number of participants. But when it comes to qualitative, sometime we can conduct a research on a single participant, a single subject. There can be a case study. There can be studies on 5 people. There can be like just interview, or maybe just class observation of different people even. So it has to be done very carefully, and you have to clearly mention about your sampling procedure in your data, in your methodological part. Your readers, the readers of your article, of your thesis, should know that what particular sampling procedure you have used. Why did you select, let's say, 5 participants? Why not 10? There should be a rationale for that. If you are, for example, going for quantitative, then if you're taking a very a bigger sample, then justification should be there. And there's always very important point that maybe people are sometimes biased in selecting their sample. So there should be a criteria for inclusion and exclusion of the participants. So these questions are very, very important in our methodological part. Another question here in Move 6, you will see that if you propose to conduct interviews, how do you intend to select the sample population? And if you are analyzing text again, which text have you chosen and why? For example, there can be a question of, let's say, the bias. If you are using statistics, then why this set of data being used? So that has to be clearly given. And the sampling procedure, as I said, that we need to mention, for example, whether it is purposive sampling or maybe a non-purposive random sampling. Even within that, you need to be clear what kind of particular sampling method you have used. So every thing has to be clearly explained there. And apart from that, there's one last move which is very important. Again, describe potential limitations. So definitely when we talk about uh, uh, potential limitation, from that we mean that every methodology that we are using, it has a limitation. For example, maybe I have just looked at a certain problem from a specific methodological standpoint. Maybe this problem can also be used, can also be investigated, I mean, from a different methodological perspective. If we have looked at a particular method, particular problem from a qualitative inquiry or from a quantitative, maybe another method can be also used there. So we need to clearly mention about that. Means there can be possible limitation. Or maybe if I have gathered data through questionnaire, but I see that this problem can further be understood by conducting in-depth comprehensible interviews from the participants to know their insights about why certain phenomena is happening. So this is how we can always go with that. And no matter you are writing a research proposal for your PhD admission somewhere, or for masters, for your initial seminar defense, methodological part should be taken seriously. You need to give every minute details in a way that you have to convince the audience, convince the readers about what and how you are going to do a certain research that you have conceptualized. So you don't have to assume that, for example, your readers know everything, and we don't have to be careless about writing our methodological section, because as I said that it is a skeleton of your research, and therefore we have to structure it. We have to write it in a way that everything is pictorial. It should be illustrative. Everybody should actually be able to know what you are going to do. And definitely in natural sciences or in other sciences, that the way of writing methodological part may vary. For example, in engineering field or natural sciences, a kind of materials and methods is used, and then different laboratory experiments and different techniques are used. So in every field, we have a different set of methodological consideration that we need to take into account. So for now, thank you so much. I hope everything is clear. And inshallah, in our next lecture, we would be talking about results and discussion part. That would be again very important, how to write them in a convincing way. Thank you. Take care.